Well, welcome everyone to, I suppose, the beginning of our formal unfolding of the annual meeting. 2 weeks ago in highlights, in our February highlights, we called that the kickoff unfolding, not just the virtual meeting that we all look forward to participating in together, whether member, non-member, presenter, or attendee. We very much are looking forward to the annual meeting with you, doing it for you, and having the kind of experience that is far beyond what we wish we did not have to invent in moving from a place-based meeting, but one we hope and believe will engage your presence, your participation, your attendance, and your access in wide-ranging and inclusive ways to our meeting. The meeting itself will have many, many opportunities for networking, formally and informally. We will be providing ASL and live closed captioning for the largest proportion of our both invited programs and all of our sessions. And this particular session is about one important phase of that work. And that is how those of you, most of whom we assume on this call or on this video event, most of you are going to be presenting a paper. If indeed you are an attendee who was interested in how we are doing the paper presentations this year, we welcome you and we welcome your feedback as well, because this demonstration and this example of how this will be done is just part of a larger way we want to deliver the annual meeting in a way that makes your content and your work significant as it is, and also widely accessible. Many of you have read about or heard about or potentially joined the presentations that we did on the interactive presentation gallery. We did 2 last September, and we have materials related to that, including a PowerPoint. What we did last year when the annual meeting was canceled for 2020 is that we gave paper presenters who might choose to do so an opportunity to actually experiment with this new web, for us, a new web-based product that is so much more flexible, interactive. The viewer can go at their own pace to see and to hear. An overall narration can be done by authors, which we encourage. And we opened that gallery with 450 presentations from the 2020 annual meeting that are available on that website. But with all of what we did to feature what this product means and what it will offer you as authors and those who want to view your work, not just at the annual meeting, but as a gallery throughout the year, and with an opportunity to reach out to authors, as well as authors have the capacity to schedule word chats or video chats, not just at the annual meeting, but indeed throughout the year. With all of our emphasis on that, we saw this as essential to the rollout. How do you do it if you haven't done it yet? How do you do it in a way that's comfortable for you and that actually excites your attention? I said on a call with some of our leadership last week who have seen this opportunity and this interactive presentation web product before, but I said, you know, there were many years where you would take your presentation and put it in a paper sales room, and for 50 cents, back in the day, some might say, they could pick up your paper. And then we moved into handouts, and then we moved into transparencies, and now we've moved into PowerPoint. But this is the next generation of that. It's as easy, if not easier than PowerPoint, and it gives the authors so much more opportunity and the attendee a genuine way of both interacting with authors, but also viewing, seeing, and hearing iPosters at their own pace. So this orientation is very much focused on the interactive presentation gallery, looking ahead to 2021. And there's one big difference between 2020 and 2021. In 2020, there was no place-based annual meeting. And so those who wanted to present were given this inaugural opportunity of presenting their papers and preparing them in what is the 2020 gallery. In the virtual meeting, for those who might not have focused on all the detail yet, every session will be delivered live. They will be also recorded and available in the on-demand library. And the papers, whether given in a symposia, a poster session, a roundtable, or a paper session, will be prepared not in PowerPoint, but in this essentially web-based product that will give you a lot of flexibility from, as you will learn, a very simple to a more complex model. So I wanted to just frame this a little bit more broadly than one might for other of the training sessions that will unfold, to put this in the context of the larger virtual meeting and the many, many ways it will provide you with social networking opportunities, going to sessions, presenting at sessions, and also having that content available in ways that, because of the on-demand library, make that accessible across time zones. I want to, once again, for those who may not yet have found the closed captioning, there's a pull-up in Zoom in the lower left-hand toolbar. I want to thank Maria Sidikowski for doing the live closed captioning. And we have two colleagues who will be trading off doing the ASL today, Missy Watson and Monica Sauer. We invite your feedback after this. We always want to do our training better and more responsive to your needs, because what we're doing is really for and about you. With that, we want to really be focusing the dominant part of this hour and a half on this, essentially a workshop and demonstration. There are many educative materials and guides along the way. And in saying that, I want you not to think this is because it's so complex. It really is a talented team of innovators in this iMuse, iPoster inventive product that have worked with us in being able to make this a gallery that can live as a contribution to knowledge with a citable source with respect to your presentation. And the development of this has been very much motivated by serving all of you who not only attend our annual meeting, but also may be part of other future events where this kind of presentation can add to what you do. Nothing that I do or touch with respect to an annual meeting or any meeting, or really any ways that we're thinking about communicating and inventing, doesn't happen in my life course as I'll say your executive director, whether you are a member or not, without the partnership of Robert Smith, our director of meetings, and who's in, I suppose, a virtual conference room right now. I'm in my spruced up study, and I know that you're in many places and spaces, and wherever you are, we welcome you, and we hope this is a productive time for the work that you will be doing with all of our support and facilitation in the weeks ahead. Robert?
Good afternoon. Thank you, Felice. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. In just a minute or two, you're going to see the platform demonstrated. As we were coming away from the 2020 annual meeting, we saw this opportunity for yourself to and our scholars to be able to create something that will live on beyond the meeting. It is very easy to use. You can create a presentation within this system in just a few minutes. It is, as Felice said, easier to use than PowerPoint. And it will be an electronic format, so you won't have to print a poster. Now, obviously, we're not place-based this year, but as we move towards 2022 and beyond, we will be moving towards an electronic poster system. And this will be the system that we'll be using. So you're going to get a great opportunity this year to try it out. And then for those presenting posters in the future, they'll have that knowledge on how to use the system. So thank you for joining us. See that we've got more than 1,400 folks with us this afternoon. So thank you. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Felice.
Okay. Well, without, I think, any further ado, I'd like to introduce Isaac Podolski, who is really one of the inventor leading collaborators of a small team. I suppose I would just say about iMuse and what they've created and invented over the years is that just like I like to think of AERA as small, not with respect to our membership size, but small with respect to our staff size, where, you know, under 30. And we work together as a team, we collaborate, and we want to achieve goals. Sometimes we fall short. Hopefully we sometimes exceed in those aspirations. And when you intersect with partners who have that same spirit, that same commitment, are really more about achieving a common goal, you've known that you've really hit it right. And that's really been now for just about a year. It was kind of the end of February when Robert and I sort of said, we better think about what we're going to be doing, even though nothing had even happened in Washington or in any other state within the United States. Things had begun to spread in Europe, and we found great colleagues and great partners and friends, of which Isaac is among them. Isaac?
Thank you so much for the kind words, Felice. Thank you, Robert, and thank you to the entire AERA staff. My name is Isaac Podolski, and I am a project manager at a company called iPoster Sessions. And just as Felice was alluding at, we have had a partnership with AERA for a little over a year now, where we're very thankful for this, that they have chosen us to be their poster provider. Now, I will start by sharing my screen, and I will show you a couple of images here in my first tab to provide some context in how our product used to be used before the pandemic hit. Now, I'm going to scroll down slowly and show you guys some images. This first image here is a iPoster presenter from a previous on-site meeting that we did for the American Geophysical Union. And as you can see here, not only is our product used to substitute regular paper posters, it's also used to substitute PowerPoint in breakout sessions and in keynotes. Now, scrolling down here, we'll see the entirety. We see an audience, we see an iPresentation presenter, with a microphone, a loudspeaker, at a podium, and anything they do on the laptop will be mirrored up on the big screen. And you can also see the paper posters there in the background as well. Now, this image right here is a cluster of what we like to call iPresentation stations or iPoster stations. Now, these screens show one thing, and that is what we call the iPresentation gallery. It is a centralized place where all posters affiliated with your event or conference will be located at. Now, once the session up here, and I'll scroll back to this image up here, once the session in what they call the theater has concluded, all of these people in this session migrate out to their individual assigned screens and stand there for about 45 minutes to an hour. And it's very laid back. It's a networking session. It works exactly like a paper session, but as Felice said, with more interactivity. And since you just gave a quick lightning talk in the theater, you've broken the ice, you've sold your research, you've introduced yourself, and you've essentially generated more traffic to your screen or your station. Now let me scroll down here. Here we see an iPresentation author using their iPresentation as a visual aid during the presentation, or the session, I should say. And scrolling down even further, one last image here. This is what on-site conferences usually looked like when they involved iPosters. Several rows of iPoster stations. All of the stations show the same thing, and that is the iPresentation gallery. So no need to bring anything on site, no USB sticks. You make it in the comfort of your own home or at your office. Once you're done, you click publish, and it'll pop up at the screens on site. Now, I'll reiterate once again, the reason why I'm showing you these images is to provide a context in what we're trying to emulate in the virtual space. Now, as I said, what all of these screens are showing is the iPresentation gallery. Now, I'm going to move over to my second tab to show you what last year's AERA Interactive Presentation Gallery looked like. Now here, you're greeted with what we like to call a pop-up splash screen. Now, since this is last year's iPresentation Gallery, all of this might not be relevant anymore, but the idea is that you'll get some browsing recommendations and some relevant information. But obviously, what we want to do here is click the big green button, click to view iPresentations. So that's what we'll do. Now, with that out of the way, we can see the iPresentation gallery in its entirety. It will look very similar this year. There will be a different banner up at the top. The boundary between the thumbnails for the posters and the banner, the boundary in between here will have different drop-down menus, but they will work the same way. These drop-down menus are used to sort and filter, and thus find the iPoster or the category that you're interested in browsing. So using the first drop-down menu in the top left corner, I can scroll down to Division A, Section 1, Leadership, and click. That will filter out and show me the relevant posters. I can click in the top right-hand corner of the gallery to reset search, reset everything to default, and see all of the posters. Same goes for keywords, the next drop down to the right, and same goes with the last drop down all the way to the right, browse research method. Now, I can scroll down and just browse if I'd like, without any filtration. And as you can see, underneath each thumbnail, you'll have some information. You got your first name and last name, institution, poster ID, poster title, and keywords. It'll look very similar, but not necessarily exactly this way for AERA and their 2021 interactive presentation gallery. But if you're looking or searching for a specific iPresentation, your best bet is to simply click your cursor into the search bar up here in the top right-hand corner and start typing in the first name or the last name of the poster you're interested in, or the author, I should say. So I'll start off by typing in Lorri because I'm searching for Lori's poster. And right here, we can see Lori Santamaria's poster about sustainable Mixteco indigena research methodology. So all we need to do to pull up her poster is to click on her thumbnail. So we'll do that now. The iPoster is loading. It'll take a couple of seconds depending on your internet connection. But here we see the iPoster in its entirety. I'm going to click F11 to pull it up to full screen. And this, in my opinion, is the best browsing experience. Looking at an iPoster here, it will remind you of a regular paper PDF poster. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. Up at the top of your screen, you'll see the preloaded, but still editable, poster title. It's going to be in a larger font, and you cannot change the font size of this dedicated section. Same goes with the next row, which will be iPoster authors, and the last row is up to you. Some people have their disclosures here, but most people write out their institutions. Looking in the top left-hand and right-hand corners of the poster, we have dedicated 150 times 150 pixel areas for author photos, company logos, and institution logos. You can upload up to 8 apiece on each side. I'll reiterate once again that you don't have to absorb all of this information now, because we're going to go through everything when we create our iPresentation together very soon. Then you'll see below the title, the author names, and the institutions, you'll see a couple of different content boxes, we call them. Some people call them slides. Now, when I'm browsing the iPresentation gallery, I don't want to look at the iPresentation that I'm currently browsing. I don't want to look at it at a glance. I want to interact with it. So in the top left-hand corner, we see a content box called Background and Rationale. We're going to want to click on that content box. Anywhere on the content box will do, to blow it up and bring it center it. So here we have a scrollable content box where Lori has elected to upload an image. We can click this image to bring it up to its full size, and we recommend that you make your images up to 1920 times 1080 pixels. We can just click on the image again to collapse it, and click anywhere in the background to bring us back to the home view. Now, let's go to the next content box here. We can click here, and we can see that Lori has elected to embed a YouTube video. Now, we allow for embedding when it comes to both Vimeo and YouTube. And if you're worried about sensitive or embargoed research, you can make your YouTube or Vimeo videos unlisted, effectively hiding them from the public whilst still being able to embed them nicely onto your iPresentation. Now, all we need to do to play this YouTube video is to click the play button, and the video will start. We can also blow it up to full screen.
So, la manera en que nosotros estamos
We'll pause that and continue to scroll down. And this would be an appropriate moment to say that there is no limit to the amount of content an iPoster or an iPresentation can hold. So we recommend that you utilize that, and that's the reason why looking at an iPresentation at a glance doesn't really do it much justice. You'll also notice that since we have all of these different content boxes on the template at an arm's length, it's a non-linear format. So this might be especially useful for you during your Q&A at the end of your session. Instead of scrolling back and forth between slides, like, for example, if it was a PowerPoint, you can simply jump over to a content box like inquiry and findings and go to the appropriate table or graph if you'd like to show that again to answer a question. Now, let me also say that one of these content boxes are unlike the others. I'm, of course, talking about the content box in the bottom right-hand corner of this iPresentation. Now, I'll click on it, and you'll see that a slideshow starts. It brings up the images that Lori has elected to add to this content box, and it'll bring them up front and center. Now, we can click the pause button down here, and we can navigate through the slides at our own discretion. And as you can see, Lori has previously made a PowerPoint, I would assume, and then, excuse me, and then this section of the iPresentation Studio or template editor, this section would be the appropriate section then to upload your slides into. And I will show you guys how to do that very soon. Now, looking at the last content box here, Lori has elected to embed more YouTube videos. And if I'll just get out of this content box back to the main view, we'll also see a couple of buttons at the bottom of her poster. I won't go through all of the buttons now, but I will go through the one farthest to the left, the bottom left-hand button called Narration. Now, it's highly encouraged, as Felice previously mentioned, it is highly encouraged that you upload an audio narration, and I will show you how to do that. If we click on her poster and we click on her narration button,
Bienvenida.
You can hear her in Spanish.
My name is Dr. Lori
and we
Santa
can
Maria.
follow along
Welcome
with
to
her
our
while
presentation,
we
Sustainable
listen
Mixteco
to her
Indígena
presentation.
Research Methodology
And this
toward
is
Equal
extremely
Status
useful
Stakeholder and
since your iPoster or your iPresentation is online in the AERA gallery in perpetuity, unless you elect not to have it there. So attendees will continuously stream through the gallery. It's a great way to increase your visibility and promote your research. And especially if you have a narration, people can listen to you describing your research in detail without you having to be there. So highly recommended. I should also say, while browsing the gallery, add-ons for whatever browser you might be using, whether it's Mozilla, Firefox, Chrome, or Microsoft Edge, whatever extensions you might be using in terms of accessibility, text-to-speech, increased font size, everything is compatible with our gallery here. Everything is HTML5 based, and it will work with the regular add-ons that you use usually for browsing the web. Now, without further ado, oh, right. Are there any questions about the browsing experience before I head into talking about how to create an iPresentation for AERA 2021?
So Isaac, this is Nathan who's moderating the Q&A. This may be a question for Felice and Robert, but can we clarify who is actually going to be using the poster platform? Meaning, is it for people in paper sessions, poster sessions, roundtables? There's a bit of confusion by the word poster that people are.
Yes, yeah, let me clarify that, because this product uses the word iPoster. It gets confabulated with our use. This is what will be used to create your presentation for your paper, whether that paper is in a paper session. And so what will happen in a paper session is that you will bring up your presentation and then highlight however you've created it. While you've seen a very complex one, you will learn that you have about 9 choices from 2 or 3 slides, with or without narration, without pulling up narration, as you just saw within a slide, or it gives you a great deal of latitude. But this is your PowerPoint. So for our iPoster colleagues, they tend to slip into the language of iPoster because that's their product. But that's why we call it the AERA Presentation Gallery. This is when you make your presentation from your paper. And whether you're giving a paper in a symposia, a paper session, or a poster session, this is what you will have available to use. So the reason why I suggested an overall narration isn't that when you're live, you're going to play your narration. It is when it's in the gallery, when people see it before or after and want to contact you. And there's also, we'll show you a new function that we did not have in the fall to schedule written video chats. We didn't have when we did the 2020 video chats and word chats. So if you're in a paper session, a poster session, using the word poster in that instance, or even a roundtable. Now, roundtables are not formal, as we know, are not formal presentations of papers, but quite frequently someone might show something they want on an iPad or an iPhone, and the person at the round table, and you will be together in a room, the person at the round table then will essentially just pick it up and show this much more dynamic and interactive mode of communicating. So if you think about what Isaac just showed, he happened to show it in what he called lightning talks, but there was a screen and a person. When we go live in not the first one, yeah. So that's going to be much more typical of a paper session. There might be a podium with 3 or 4 papers, the person, table, and then the person who goes to the podium, as you would have projected your PowerPoint onto a screen, you've got this very exciting latitude to be able to pull your poster up or your presentation up in the AERA language and envision that as a theater style paper session. That's what you'll use, just as an individual will have that available at a poster session. I think one of the exciting parts of what we've thought about is that we might start some poster sessions with rounds of lightning talks to bring people to posters and poster sessions. But this would be prototypical with a speaker's table of what would be your usual presentation. And instead of bringing your PowerPoint up, you will bring your AERA interactive presentation up. Same thing in symposia. Posters you got a feel of from the other slide. Roundtables you will all be in a smaller group, and people will be joining you, and you will be essentially doing the same thing, essentially sharing screen as Isaac has just done. I'm glad for the question, because I was kind of writing down my notes here that the product name should not be confabulated with, for us, it's the presentation mode of your paper. if you have a paper and more persons, I think we hit well over 5,000 persons are in the online paper repository. The online paper repository is a unique DOI that will link to your presentation, and that will further expand your your capacity to reach others, not just at the annual meeting, but well beyond the meeting.
So Felice, I apologize if this is repetitive, but just to clarify, so people will use this for paper sessions, roundtable sessions, poster sessions, and they can use it for symposia as well. Is that correct?
Yes, they will use it for their papers within symposia.
And can someone use PowerPoint instead of this presentation gallery?
Well,
all presentations on the iPresentation gallery must be made in our system, but I will show you how easy it is to.
but we will not have PowerPoints within the gallery.
Correct.
We are strongly discouraging. I started with talking about transparencies, and many of you probably don't even remember or know what a transparency is. And we've moved to, we've moved to PowerPoint. PowerPoint is really last generation. We said in the invite, it's really last century, or maybe the first decade of this century. We cannot, if you're doing a live presentation, you can pick up anything you want and share it on the screen. We strongly recommend for the value it will have for you and for the flexibility it will give to the viewers who will be able to find you, see your work in the gallery, go at their own pace, make conversions from black to white to black in the print, part of inclusivity for you and for attendees. Now, will there be a gate? No. Will we be counting who did and who didn't? But we all need to hang together on all kinds of change. And this is one of the ones that is perhaps most beneficial to authors and to attendees. So we hope you, why we're doing these sessions is we hope you see that value, why we had the soft experimenting. Try it, you'll have a lot of support for doing it. And the benefit to you with having a unique citation being accessible, but the posted gallery will not be just a way of uploading your PowerPoints. It has that capacity, but we will not use the posted gallery for that purpose, or the presentation gallery for that purpose.
I think, Isaac, a lot of the questions are about how to, so I think you're probably going to address those in the next portion of this presentation. So let me clean out some of these Q&As and if you want to proceed, and then I'll give you some questions after that.
Absolutely. Thanks, Nathan. Thanks, Felice. What's going to happen next? Within a week or two, you'll receive an email in your inbox. And that email will be the official letter of invitation that contains your login credentials and the web page for which, essentially the portal, where you log in. This is last year's. I'm just going to pull that up. It'll be shorter this year, but this is what authors received last year. So you'll get this to your mail inbox. And what is important here is this little snippet of text. The URL to your editor, which won't be this is last year's, your specific username and your specific password. Now, the paragraph beneath is actually quite important. You as the main author will receive this letter of invitation. Once you've logged into the studio or to the template editor, you have the ability to invite co-authors. So don't worry about that. And at the bottom of the letter of invitation, well, you have your deadline here, which is good as well. This is last year's. But at the bottom of the letter of invitation will still be support links, tutorials, YouTube tutorials, quick guides in English, Spanish, and Japanese, frequently asked questions. We have sample posters, how other people have used iPosters, and we have links, an email link to our support desk. So we will take care of you if you have any technical difficulties at all. So without further ado, let's take our login credentials from our letter of invitation, and we'll copy and paste those, and we'll click the Aera 2021 login page that looks like this. I'll blow this up to full screen. I have now switched tabs to the iPresentation Studio. So this is the editing site. I will enter in my username and my password in the dedicated fields, and I will click submit. Now you'll see the Aera spinning icon, and this website, I just need to tell you, is still under construction. However, obviously it will be 100% done when you receive your letter of invitation and log in. But once again, you're taken to the welcome page. And what I mean by once again, you'll see a lot of information here that is also in your letter of invitation. You have some text here that is hyperlinked to our YouTube tutorials, our quick guide, some sample iPresentations, FAQ, a great guide on how to switch templates once you've already started. And since we have an office in Europe, we strictly adhere to GDPR privacy laws. So if you're interested in how we handle the information that we receive about you from AERA, you can read up more about that here at the bottom. I will briefly talk about the system requirements that are in the paragraph in the middle here. We support operating systems across the board, mainly later versions of Windows, Linux, and Mac OS X, and browsers including Chrome, Microsoft Edge, Firefox, and Safari. Now, one thing that I will mention that is quite important is that we do not fully support Internet Explorer, because Microsoft themselves have started to phase out that browser because they want everybody to use Edge. So for future development, we've started with Edge compatibility instead. But once you've taken a look at the resources here, if you have to choose one, I would recommend the quick guide. Click the big green button, choose your template. Now, these are the 9 different templates that we offer all of our end users, all of you authors. And this is arguably a quite important step. These are the templates that, in accordance with AERA, we've decided to offer all of the AERA iPresentation authors. They vary from one content box, which I will actually choose now. So you can see what that looks like. Now that the page is loaded, you'll see what the editor looks like. Now, if I already have slides, for example, if I already have a bunch of graphs and resources that I want to just make sure are available in the iPresentation gallery, I can elect to make this entire content box an image slider and upload all my slides into this section right here, and then I'm essentially done. I might want to add a couple of author photos or institution logos, and obviously I want to make sure that my title is preloaded correctly up here at the top, and all of my co-authors and co-author affiliated institutions are listed. But if you want to go that route, the template with the one content box is your best bet. So keep that in mind. Now, for this demo, where I want to show what the system can really do, I won't be choosing this, although there is no harm or shame in choosing the one content box template. I will choose template number 5. But just briefly looking at these 9 different templates, they vary from one content box with a certain central layout, I suppose, all the way up to 7 content boxes. So due to the fact that, I mean, we're aware that 99.9% of our end users or the iPresentation authors, they won't sit down with a blank template in the studio and conduct research from scratch. Everybody is copying and pasting. Everybody is drag and dropping and essentially transferring research from Word, PowerPoint, or a PDF into our system. So especially during the pandemic, during all of these virtual conferences that we've been doing, we've pivoted into making life as easy as possible, and we try to facilitate that process of transferring content into our system. So without further ado, let's choose our template. We'll go for the 6 content box template with a slideshow option. And we are greeted with this. Now, you'll notice right off the bat, for example, in the top right-hand corner, it says the deadline will be December 31st, 2020. All of this will be sorted out, so when you log in, you will have the relevant deadline information displayed there. So what I like to do before creating an iPresentation, I would like to just make sure that my title up here at the top has been preloaded correctly. Now it says not available. That's no good, so I'll just do Isaac's poster. For the dedicated section underneath, I'll click the cursor there, and I will type in my name. And for the dedicated section underneath here, I'll type in my alma mater here. Like so. And you'll see here, just as we did with Lori's poster in the AERA 2020 iPresentation Gallery, we have the content boxes, excuse me, in a similar layout. The first thing we want to do is to make sure we want to kind of decide the layout of our poster or of our presentation, I should say. So let's do this. Let's go and click the top of the content boxes here to fill in the content box titles. Now I'll call this one intro. I'll go to the next one. I'll call that method. I'll call the third one here in the middle analysis. I'll call the fourth one discussion. And I'll call the last one here conclusion. Now, once that's been established, I would like to go to my Word document, let's say, and copy paste all of my text. So I'll pull up my trusty Word document. I'll select the text that I want to copy, and I click on the content box that I want to paste my text into. So Control V. It's as easy as that. So the worst thing that can happen when you do this is that if you copy, for example, directly from PowerPoint with a bunch of special formatting, the system might strip it of that formatting and you have to redo it with our tools. It's because the code contains a bunch of Microsoft Office code that's alien to our system. But you'll notice when I click on a content box in the studio that I get this WYSIWYG toolbar here. Now, the bottom row of the toolbar and the middle row of the toolbar up here at the top of the content box of which we're working in, they all have tools that are very similar to Word. You have your text color, your background color or your highlight color. You have font sizes and font names, different types of fonts, Arial, Times New Roman, and stuff like that. The middle row is all about your superscripts and subscripts, your bolds and italics. your bullet points, your numbered lists, and your text alignments. Now, what I find most interesting to talk about during these demos is the top row of this toolbar. The top row of the toolbar handles all of the multimedia capabilities that we can offer you. So place your cursor anywhere in here and insert a couple of line breaks for good measure. And place your cursor where you want to, for example, add an image. So the first button here, well, not the first top left hand, because that is undo, that button, Control Z, but the button to the right is image. Now let's click on that, and it'll open up a little rectangular horizontal space here where we can drag and drop whatever images we know that we're going to want to use for our presentation. So let's go to our folder here, and let's drag and drop into this dedicated space. It'll upload for a couple of seconds, and then let's just click OK. And now we have our image right here. Now, I'm going to want to add a little bit more text throughout the document here, or throughout our presentation. So let me just do that quickly. And it is easy as that. So we have now added an image to our introductory content box. Now, let's say we want to add another one. So let's place our cursor in between two paragraphs, insert a couple of line breaks for good measure once again, and click on the Add Image button. Now, you'll see here that I've gathered all of the files that I know that I'm going to want to use for this demo. So I recommend you do the same. Just open up or create a new folder on your desktop and just gather all of the imagery and all of the documents that you know you're going to want to use for this presentation. And it'll be way easier down the line once you add them to your presentation. So let's add another image here. Let's do that. Drag and drop. And click OK. So now we have two images in our introductory content box. Now, let's say we want to add a YouTube video to our analysis section. Let's click on our analysis content box. It'll bring up the WYSIWYG toolbar. And let's click the button to the right of Add Image, which is Insert Video Link. So we'll click on this, and it's going to ask us for a URL. Now, we accept, as I previously mentioned, we accept URLs from Vimeo or YouTube. So let's copy and paste a YouTube video link right here and click OK. Now our NASA launch YouTube video is embedded nicely into the content box, our analysis content box. Now let's insert a couple of line breaks here so it looks better. And let's say we want to add a audio narration underneath this paragraph here. Let's go to the next button over, which asks us, or it says insert HTML5 audio. Now, all that means is that it requires an MP3 file. So we'll click here. And we have the same dedicated section where we can drag and drop. Let's go to our folder. We'll take our narration MP3 file, and we'll drag it and drop it into here. Now, this is not to be confused with the audio narration as a whole. You can add MP3 files throughout your presentation within the different content boxes. And this ties in also to accessibility as well. But you can also add an audio narration to your presentation as a whole, which I'll show how to do later. But this is if you'd like to have an audio snippet in your specific section of a specific content box. Now let's remove a couple of line breaks here so it looks good. So I've showed you now how to add images, videos, and MP3 files to your content boxes. Now, let's say we want to add some mathematical notation. Let's insert a couple of line breaks here and click on the next button down the line in the top row of the WYSIWYG toolbar, which is add mathematical notation, simply put. So we'll click on this. And this is actually an integrated software called LaTeX or LaTeX. Different people pronounce it differently. But the default here is the quadratic equation. So if you know LaTeX, or I know there are converters online, you can do mathematical notation here and just click OK. You can increase the size of your formulas or equations, and they'll be embedded onto your poster. So we have now added the quadratic formula to our discussion content box. Now let's go to our final content box, conclusion, and let's insert a couple of line breaks here. And the next button down the line is add charts. You can do line charts, pie charts, and polar charts with, or bar charts with this tool. However, I will be honest, the majority of our authors, they make their charts outside of our program, and then they simply import it as large images. So that's probably your best bet. Then, whoops, I accidentally added all right, like so. And then we have another button here called insert symbol if you want to insert a couple of UTF-8 special symbols if you'd like. And the final button all the way to the right, top right in the toolbar is link. So let's select this entire paragraph and let's make it a hyperlink. So let's just paste our YouTube video once again and click OK. So now this entire paragraph is a live link. So those are your tools in the WYSIWYG toolbar, which you can only pull up once you've actually clicked on a content box within the studio. Now, the bottom right-hand content box, we can make a text field, like all of these other content boxes right here, or we can make an image slider. So let's make it an image slider, and let's upload a couple of nice large images into here. Let's do this. And let's do this. While it's uploading, I want to say that we allow JPEGs, PNGs, and GIFs. So if you have a nice automated looping GIF, we absolutely accept that. So JPEG, PNG, and GIF. We don't allow for embedding videos other than Vimeo and YouTube due to database size reasons. If your YouTube or if your video rather contains really sensitive and embargoed research, perhaps then host it on your own server and use the live hyperlink function to link to it. But then you won't have this nice embedded thumbnail like we have in our analysis content box. So we've uploaded a couple of images to the content box in the bottom right-hand corner. And this content box specifically is a slideshow, as opposed to the others that are regular text boxes. Now, before we move on to the right-hand menu, let's upload some author photos in the top left-hand corner. Let's see here. Let's do that, like so. Drag and drop into the dedicated space as usual. and let's upload an institution logo in the top right-hand corner. Like so. Now, we've collapsed the right-hand toolbar. We're looking towards the right-hand side of my screen here. We've collapsed the toolbar. We're going to want to expand it. Now, this exact right-hand toolbar will change a little bit for when you log in and start creating your poster, but not to worry. All of these exact same buttons will be here. It's just that the names of the buttons will be more intuitive, I should say. So the first button in the right-hand menu is Design iPresentation. So let's click on that. It brings up a pop-up where all we can do in this pop-up has to do with personalization, customization in terms of aesthetics. So first of all, we can choose a background color with a fill or a gradient, I should say, or we can upload a background image. So let's upload a background image. The background images should be 1920 times 1080 pixels. So let's upload this like so. And let's change the colors of the content boxes to a more suitable color. Let's do that, and let's do this. Well, no. Background color, yes, actually. Background color. So. And so. Here you can also choose universally what fonts or what text colors you'd like. So this overrides the specific, no, excuse me, the other way around. You can choose everything in Times New Roman or Arial, right? But then you can click this and click this, select the text that you want, and then make it a different color, like so. So this is far from ideal. I do apologize having black color, black text font color on a blue background. So keep that in mind when designing your iPoster, that it should be very visible and clear. So let's go and switch to a lighter color here. Like so.
Isaac, I'm just thinking two things. This is Felice. What Isaac is trying to do in this presentation is to show the various functions and how one in the studio creates a poster. Many of the questions, the general questions about where this is going to be used and how, and if this is done in advance, then how is one going to bring it in live to a session, may require our doing two things. One, having a little bit of a brief wrap up with Isaac of this part with the following understanding. Everything that Isaac has showed you have tutorials within the studio. And he's trying to show you the various ways a user would work in the studio to figure out the template they might like to use, whether they have pictures they want to show at all. Obviously, if you don't, you won't upload them. But for each of these functions, there are separate guidances when you decide what you want to do. And that is no different than what you would decide in a PowerPoint, except because this is web-based, you have much more functionality to have a little bit of a narration in a slide, to be able to bring in animation in a slide. These are all things you might have wished to do, but you don't have that kind of capacity in essentially a single dimensional product. The web product gives you more latitude, but we don't have time, even with taking some extra time, without taking more time than we should in terms of our scheduled time to go through all the functionality. So if I can ask you, Isaac, maybe to take 5 minutes at most and try to kind of capture how these specifications will enable those who are creating a presentation. This presentation is the presentation you will bring up in a paper session. This presentation is the presentation you will bring up if you have a paper in a symposia. This presentation is the presentation you might refer to in a roundtable when you're not supposed to give a formal presentation, but you might want to show a couple of things like a handout, and that will be that. And in a poster session, each one of these are in separate virtual live rooms. In a poster session, you will be in a room, and as one person or 2 or 3 people come into that room and join you, you'll talk about what you're doing. They can work with the display, or you can work with the display, and then later they can go back and go into the gallery. So the fact that this is done in advance, and I want to emphasize, we're going to ask you to create it and have you publish it the Monday before the annual meeting, so that everything can kind of be reviewed. You know, I just did something with a PowerPoint and had a terrible typo or 2 on Friday, so that everything will be checked. You can check it. You can make changes along the way. If you find an error, you can go back in. And for those of us last minute types, if you finish your PowerPoint at a restaurant or in your hotel room 2 hours before you present, this is no different. You can be the very last minute if you choose to, and when you publish it, it will be available for you to pull up when you're presenting live, and it'll go into the gallery. I just wanted to kind of capture that. The fact that you're doing this in advance is no different than doing transparencies in advance, and you can be as late as you want. I think you'd say curtain call is 2 hours before, because you want to make sure everything is refreshed or for the users and when you want to pull it up.
Thanks, Felice. Yeah, no, absolutely. And to kind of expand further on what Felice was saying, you've entered in your content, you've chosen a template. You know, if you want to, it is what you make of it. So choose a 1 content box template if you like, choose one with 7 content boxes and a slideshow, transfer your content. I know everybody's going to transfer your content. And the power with that is that it will be in the online repository. It'll be in the gallery. It'll be there in perpetuity. And not only do you have the ability to send people, colleagues, co-authors, invitations to your specific poster because it is hosted online, you can also schedule text chats. You can also schedule video chats. So let me just briefly talk about that. But before I do, this big green button in the top of the right-hand menu is narration. Click on this, select the MP3 file that you want to upload to your poster, and you will have the exact same narration button at the bottom of your poster, like Lori did, the poster we showed from AERA 2020.
And if I can just interact with Isaac 1 moment around that, the purpose of that is for when persons who didn't go to your live session are going are during the whole virtual meeting, let alone after, they will be able to then get an overview. We recommend that be somewhere in the 3 to 5 minute zone. There's many illustrations of that, and we'll actually try to do some live demonstrations. When you're doing your session live, of course, you won't play your narration because you'll be there. But then this becomes a way of communicating what you're aiming to do. That narration is a pull down that can be heard, and we will be transcribing it so it can be read. And and so that's part of sharing and networking, not just in your live session, but before and after. The sessions will also be recorded, so they will also be on the virtual platform at any point in time during the meeting. Isaac?
Thanks, Felice. So just looking briefly here at the right-hand menu, you've seen the narration button, you've seen the design your iPresentation button. These buttons here, add author info, add abstract, add disclosures, add references, these all work the same way. If you don't add anything to these sections, you won't have these buttons at the bottom of your poster. We did not want to, or your presentation, excuse me. We didn't want to occupy prime real estate on the template itself for disclosures, author information. Let's say you have 10 co-authors collaborating on your presentation. Maybe you don't have room enough to list all of their affiliations and institutions up here at the top. This is the section you want to click on. This is the space that you want to add all of your coworkers or your co-authors. Now, for the interesting stuff, chat and live session. These won't be called this. This would be called word chat or text chat, and this will be called video chat. Clicking on the text chat button will enable this pop-up. Here, you schedule your time. The right-hand side of this box is the default chat message. And this message right here will be displayed when people browse your, click on your poster and click join chat without you having started it yet. Just because you've scheduled a text chat for a certain time does not mean that things will happen automatically. You need to be in front of your computer and you need to click this big green button in the bottom left-hand corner of this box to start chat. Now, you can't start chat without having published your presentation, because without publishing your presentation, you won't have a thumbnail in the gallery. And we have a great guide on how it works if you click in the top right-hand corner here. Moving on to video chat, works very similar, but you'll see in the bottom left-hand corner, session address and session password. Here, you can go out on your own and schedule a video chat and facilitate communications amongst your peers in the gallery and copy and paste your own Zoom room, Microsoft meetings, GoToWebinar, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's a live link, and if it's password protected and you only want the browsers of your poster to be able to attend, punch in your password here, and attendees of the gallery or AERA 2021 will know what your password is. So this is separate from the official presentation times that you've received from AERA. This is to facilitate more communication. So after your official presentation on Zoom, where you use your presentation here as a visual aid, you can book another session via our tool here and go out on your own. Now, image gallery, here you drag and drop all of your images that you know that you're going to want to use for your presentation, because if you do that, it'll be way easier to distribute them in your poster. So I can add image, and instead of dragging and dropping it into here, I can go to my image gallery, and as you can see, all of the images I've already uploaded to my presentation they're here already. So I'll just select this, click OK, and it's as easy as that. The support links Felice talked about briefly. Not only are they on the welcome page and in the letter of invitation, but they're here as well. So the quick guide in Spanish, Japanese, and English, FAQ, cases, and tutorials. The template settings, and we're still looking at the right-hand menu here, the template settings, this will only be for you guys who select a template with a slideshow option. So if we want to make this a regular text box instead, we can reset that slideshow box. Print poster, if we click on print poster, I'll show you guys what this looks like. Right here, we can save this as a static offline PDF document. All your text is here, all of your images here, and your content is here from A to Z. However, there is no interactivity and the online embedding isn't there. It's referenced, but it isn't there. This hyperlink, however, will still work if you have an internet connection, I suppose. Now, going back here and switching gears back to this, let me go full screen again. Share poster, if you click on this, you will be able to copy and paste the URL to your specific poster or presentation, I should say, and send it to whoever's interested, whoever you want to share your research with. You can tweet it and you can share it on Facebook. My settings, this is an interesting button. The orange button down here, here is where you invite your co-authors. I'll reiterate again, you will only receive, the main author is the only author that will receive the letter of invitation. It is up to the main author to invite co-authors. Once you do this, fill in their first name, last name, email, and message. You can send them an invite and our system will send them an invitation. You can also revoke their access if you have creative differences, I suppose. Contact author info. This is because you have a button that says contact author at the bottom of your poster where attendees of the AERA gallery can contact you and start a correspondence via email. If you don't want those messages to go to the default email address, which is the email address that we receive from AERA, I suppose you use that to register. If you want to relay those to a co-author or your own personal Gmail account, here is where you edit that. The next tab over is choose publishing rules. There's lots of text here, but essentially what this means in a nutshell is, do you want to have your poster or your presentation in the gallery? The default is yes, obviously, because if no, you're essentially unpublishing your poster. We put this here because many people would only like to have their presentations in the gallery for a certain amount of time. We don't recommend, unless you have embargoed research, we don't recommend that you pull your presentation from the gallery at any time, but this option is here for you if you'd like. Share poster. At the bottom of your poster, not only do you have your narrations, your contact author buttons, and your abstracts, you also have a Get iPoster button, where authors can navigate to your poster in the AERA gallery and click on the Get iPoster button and essentially send your presentation URL to themselves. You, as the main author, will, however, be notified that this email address requested your poster. The default is yes, but once again, if you have sensitive research, you're probably going to want to opt out of having that there. So go in here and click no. The last tab in the My Settings button is statistics. Here you can see how many times have people clicked on your presentation in the gallery, how many times have people clicked on Get iPoster, if applicable, and what was their email address. And lastly, how many times have people clicked on Contact Author, what was their email, and what was their message. So you can check all of this out retroactively. Finally, let me exit full screen just for a moment. These last few buttons in the right-hand menu, preview, if we click on this, we will preview our poster. We recommend that you preview often. This will give you the best indication of what your iPoster or your iPresentation rather will look like in the AERA gallery. Just briefly, we have our imagery here, a nice high-res image of our crater. Scrolling down in our intro content box, we have a picture of a meeting. Click on the background. Now we want to click on our analysis content box. We can click on our NASA launch video. Play it nicely. We can scroll down.
If you've ever used a
Click on our
computer
audio
to
snippet.
create a document or a presentation,
We can exit out of this. We can go to our discussion content box. We can check out our imagery here, and we can click and we can see our quadratic equation in place. Clicking on our conclusion right here, this will take us to the YouTube video we used as an external link. And finally, clicking on the slideshow, we can pause it and we can navigate at our own discretion. The buttons I was referring to earlier are all here. We have author information, where I've just copied and pasted the same YouTube link. Contact author. This is what attendees of the AERE gallery will use to start a correspondence with you. We have print, and this is get iPoster. So here I enter in my own email to send this specific poster to myself. But there is no way to be anonymous. The main author will be informed. And then save, pretty self-explanatory. The system auto-saves every 5 minutes. So if you somehow lose your content, we can revert back to a previously saved version and salvage your content that way. Once you're done with your poster, or with your presentation rather, excuse me, you're gonna wanna click publish. Now your presentation is in the AERA 2021 gallery. No need to do anything else. If you want to make changes to your already published presentation, then because you can only publish once, right? So log in here, cross your T's, dot your I's, add more imagery, add more MP3 files, click save once again, and the published version of your presentation will instantaneously be updated in the gallery. So that's what Felice was talking about earlier. That's one of the USPs of the system, that you can keep on making changes up to, you know, we don't intend to shut down editing at any point really. So that's basically it from me.
All right, well, Nathan, do you want to try to hit? I know I can see the numbers of questions, but I can't see the content of them. So you want to try to hit some of the high points?
Some of these may have been addressed just because the volume of questions coming in is quite rapid. Can we just address really quickly how secure these presentations are and whether or not the public could download them, for example?
Well, I'll say right off the bat that we don't index any of our galleries to any of our clients on any search engines whatsoever. We only share them, and this, I'm talking about the URL to the AERA 2021 gallery. We're only going to share that with the AERA staff. And I believe AERA will put it on their platform, which is password protected.
But like the online paper repository, after the annual meeting, the ARA interactive presentation gallery is intended to expand your opportunities and other scholars' opportunities to network and interact with you. So it's not a gated product, which would sort of undercut its purpose. An annual meeting is a meeting that you're making a public presentation. So if you have materials that are in some sense embargoed or are showing content having nothing to do with the interactive presentation gallery that has not yet been appropriately vetted for privacy and confidentiality, just as you would not show that in a session. You wouldn't. This is essentially your presentation that you will give in any paper session. It has the added advantage of it being essentially making wider and more visible your presentation to those who aren't able to attend the meeting or register for the meeting. And we'll have, we have guidance, of course, on the kind of content that should be presented in every way, including ways that are both in terms of oral presentation and visual presentation that, are also appropriate and inclusive and accessible.
So Isaac, just a couple more technical questions. There's been many of them that came in, and unfortunately that we have not been able to address, but someone wanted to know, is there a place where they could do speaker notes? Someone else wanted to know, can they upload tables as opposed to graphics? Can you address those two items?
Absolutely. So the tables question works the same way as graphs. I mean, your best bet, or in my personal opinion, I think the nicest way is to, if the table already exists in a PDF or a PowerPoint slide or in a Word document, I would blow it up as much as possible without making it pixelated, and then I would take a high resolution dedicated screen grab of that and then upload it to your presentation as an image. And what was the second part of that question, excuse me?
The second part was whether or not there was, you know how in PowerPoint there's a notes field, for example. Someone wanted to know if they were presenting from this, is there a notes field that they could see that the participants could not?
Oh, no, there wouldn't be. I suppose that you could pull it up on a separate screen. I know not everybody has that, but no, we don't have that as of today. No.
So many of the questions, Felice, actually still relate back to these concerns about, or these questions about how this is actually going to work when it's being presented live. So we're at kind of the ending time we had stated.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to address some of these general concerns that folks have.
Yeah, well, of course, go through the general concerns, and we're going to not only will we have another one of these kind of live hands-on walkthroughs on essentially the creation of your presentation, but we will be doing either within a scheduled meeting or meaning the training next week. We will show you what a poster room feels like, and how an author, let's say Nathan will be the author in a poster session, how he will pull up his presentation, which is really no different than any kind of share screen. And we'll show that for the three live kinds of, or the four kinds of things: a symposia that has paper sessions, a actually structured roundtables,
Yep.
structured poster sessions, and paper sessions. I know it's hard to visualize because you haven't seen the platform, but in the platform, you will be in a live session, and each presenter can share their screen. And just as you would share your screen in a live environment, or I should say a place-based environment, you'll be doing the same thing, but we'll do some demonstrations of that. Nathan, do you have?
Actually, I've seen a number of questions regarding if this replaces your presenting live at the annual meeting. No, it does not.
No.
You're still required to register for the meeting and attend and present your work. You should think of this as a visual aid in helping to present your work, not in lieu of being there live.
Could you also just address where folks might find out, or perhaps we could answer it now, how to find details about how long do people talk, How long does each presenter have? There's been a lot of questions about those specifics about the different session types where people want clarification.
I think that we'll be covering that in the town hall meetings Wednesday and Friday. The general guidance that AERA, that has guided AERA, has actually not changed in this. So essentially the program includes everything the program always includes. We do not have any 2-hour sessions. We have some band of sessions that are 1 hour, and all other sessions are an hour and a half. Poster sessions and roundtables are all 1 hour sessions, but they are not in a big room that anyone is looking for you. If you're at a roundtable or a poster, every poster is in a separate room that's in the schedule, and it has as you will see, the same all academic time is your time. Roundtables are each in separate rooms, symposia. And so the presentation mode is, I believe in paper sessions, it's a maximum of 8 to 10 minutes. So this is not a time to, whether it's a PowerPoint or whether it's preparing your presentation in this mode, it's not an opportunity to take your paper and cut and paste it, because your paper is already in the, in NOAA, you have a final date to either upload a final paper or your original paper becomes your final paper. So it typically is in paper sessions, an 8 to 10 minute kind of crisp presentation to generate good discussion across the paper presenters. Roundtables are a discussion format of 3 to 5 authors talking with others joining in that room, and they will join in that room with a chair facilitating the roundtable. Now, that isn't an opportunity to make a formal presentation if you're in a roundtable mode. That's not what is intended, but you will be able to pull up, just as you might show on, that's why I say, just as you might show on your iPhone, or if people bring their iPad, or you might have had a handout. You'll be able to do that by pulling it up and showing whatever slide here you would want to do. The iPoster one doesn't formally begin until someone really asks them a question. If someone comes in or there are 3 or 5 people in your room, you would do what you would do at a poster session. Let me give you a brief overview. I can walk you through, instead of walking one through a flat poster, let me show you some of the dynamics of this research. I'd like to, if you're interested, I'd like to overview briefly the methodology, and you'll want to calibrate how you do that. Just as in a poster session, someone presenting a paper, doesn't start and just continue for an hour and a half, and that someone catches them midstream. You're interacting with people who come in, and we hope actually by having these as an hour and by giving each person a separate, essentially a separate room, nobody's floating around a room in this virtual presentation, that more persons will choose in advance to come to your room. And then of course the symposias tend to be less formal in their paper presentations because there's more of a dynamic of exchange than around the topic than often happens with a paper session. And I suppose most of those, depending upon the number of participants giving papers. Now, some symposia do not have really discussion fora or great debates. It's only those sessions, invited sessions or submitted sessions, that have underlying papers that might have also used that might have used PowerPoint or the equivalent, will now use this this opportunity for presenting, and the times would actually be quite the same. And your experience will be no different, as opposed to putting on your desktop something you would bring up, you will just be bringing this up. And as I said, if you include other features like we encourage you to do, like a voice narration, so that others during the meeting and after the meeting can capture the essence of what your research is about and make this whole thing come alive experientially. You won't play your video at a live session. I mean, your narration in a live session because you're there. Every session will be recorded. We are working out the timing that if there's some egregious problem or issue, that there might be a period of time for reviewing content if one is concerned about a problem that might have happened in either closed captioning or with the sessions where we're using AI. We had originally wanted to, because of our interest in reaching all time zones around the world, we originally had pressed our developers for making all sessions in the on-demand library in 24 hours. We might need to push that back to the, there won't be, you know, any more than going live. You can't read. Whatever one has said, I'd like to do a redo of maybe my introduction here. Whatever I said, and, you know, that's the way it is. This is going to be available, you know, by, certainly by tomorrow, we'll be posting this.
You may have just addressed this, Felice, as I was typing answers to questions, but when again will people get the link to do their
Yeah, I put that. I thought that was one of the things I caught on I think on the Q&A. We had actually anticipated getting the essentially the letters of invitation out right after this session. I can hear from what Isaac said, there still needs to be some conversion of the 2020 template framework to the 2021. So we're hoping that that will be by the end of the week, Thursday or Friday, I'd say at most, if that would be Monday or Tuesday. When that happens, you'll have quite a span of time before what is our encouraged deadline, which will be April 5th. But as I said, if you're you don't have latitude on the upload of the paper. The upload of the paper, I think, is March 26th or 5th, right?
March 25th.
March 25th. So you can upload your revised paper up through March 25th. That's an extension from our original deadline, given all that's been involved this year for all of you and all of us. If you don't revise your paper or choose not to, or in some units, your first submission is essentially a final paper, your last paper uploaded as of the 25th becomes your final paper. With the creation of these presentations, interactive presentation templates, we encourage that you do so, and we're going to announce, we're going to make clear it's not a do or die deadline, but it is the preferred deadline so that the iMuse, iPost to staff, can review everything, make sure all that functionality is there. It's not to say, though, indeed, when I was first briefed on this, it's not to say that we're expecting a glitch if you do it 5 hours before, but like anything else, better to do it on the 5th and be able to take a look at it and make any modifications that you have. So in the interim, you will see in the studio, once you go into the studio, you'll see in a much more interactive way how each of these things has backup training materials. And and also have the iPoster, because that's what they're called, staff are in multiple time zones and can help you along the way. Now, the emphasis on help is actually not to suggest that this is hard, but there are people who actually don't use PowerPoint, and probably doing so the first time is might seem more intimidating than it is. One of the things I'm hoping to create at least a couple of sessions is from our 450 who created these interactive presentations, to have them talk about their experience, so that you can also ask them questions, as well as show you what it's going to feel like in a live room. Even though we send the email to the first author, are we going to be able to include all authors, Robert, in the email that goes out, so that everybody knows that the first author?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So the first time through last year, we didn't do that, but I think we did in the follow-up. All the first author, not because the first listed author, not because they are necessarily the one who will create the poster, and they will get the letter, they'll get the password, the others will get that notification. The first author, if the third author has more, if there are three authors has more interest in doing this, they can be brought in as the creation author, and the first listed author can change that. Also, when you do your narration, the overall narration, we have many examples where two co-authors have shared that, or different authors have done the little clips narrating a particular point you might want to make within the findings. None of those are you going to say out loud. And when, of course, you are presenting, only the presenting authors can present. So that's a different issue that we'll emphasize, but you need to be sure amongst you. You can't change your presenting author at the last minute, because that has nothing to do with this, because the platform defines all of your roles, all of your presentation roles, and then you can attend anywhere you want. Nathan, any final few? I don't want to.
I think actually that the bulk of questions were going to be answered at our follow-up webinars that we'll be having, our trainings and orientations. I don't see a lot of specifics for Isaac, but I do suggest that we spend some time going through the Q&A and perhaps pulling out any things that were not addressed and trying to find a way to answer those.
And we will try to make some fact sheets from the Q&A. But we also know that, everybody has only a certain amount of bandwidth to go through resources or to see live. So we're going to continue to do a mixed model, and our for this interactive presentation, we just have great collaborators with the Isaac and his colleagues, and our own staff will be available if you have general questions, even some questions around how to create this. We hope you do so. We really appreciate at least approximately a half of you still being with us, posting all those questions that allow us to do this, as well as we possibly can. We're offering this because it really offers so much and really can be done in, I think, a user-friendly way that will enhance the attendee experience. And that's what the virtual meeting's all about. Lots of social networking time. Actually, anyone can contact any attendee within the virtual platform and have their own chats and video sessions. So that kind of thing that happens to be a piece of the interactive presentation gallery around papers, it will just be part of the virtual space. You can have coffee with people or do whatever you want in essentially a Learn Tomorrow or Friday. Groups up to 20 could comfortably have a pretty spontaneous video meetup. So thank you all, and we hope that this has provided you at least with half of the things you hope to learn more about, and we'll try to do the other half as the next few weeks unfold.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
And thank you, Isaac.
Thank you, Felice. Thank you to the entire AER staff, and congratulations, everybody, for having your abstracts approved.